guys, Greg from Tales from the Pythian here. I'm back this week with another video. I told you last week in my video that I had just finished a campaign the Saturday prior in the Cypher system for the campaign setting Old Gods of Appalachia, which was a Kickstarter by Monty Cook Games a couple summers ago, and reflected the events and the storyline in the world and the lore that take place in Deep Nerd Media's podcast of the same name, Old Gods of Appalachia. Well, I thought that that was going to be a one and done. I was going to run that game, put the book on the shelf. We're over. It was cool. Didn't figure my players were going to like the Cypher system. I was wrong, family. I was very, very wrong. Not only did they like it, but they are clamoring for it to continue. So I have to make some changes to my world. I have to go into a little bit more detail in my preparation to make sure that it is better suited for a long-term game. So I have some things to correct, to fix, and to change and add. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in the prep than I normally do. So normally I hover kind of a high level. I don't want to drag us down into the weeds or whatever. But this week I'm going to go a little bit weedier in some setup. Mostly module wise, right? So I'm running the latest version of Foundry. I'm running the latest version of the Cypher system. I'll put those down in the bottom. And then modules that are going to be used in this setup are going to be Tagger, and Monk's Active Tiles, and Scene Transitions. And then I'm using some tools from Baileywiki. I think that's it. If there's anything else, then we'll cover that. I'm not going to be jumping around to other softwares or anything like that today. This is all going to be inside of Foundry. You will see some work done in Pixlr, which I've mentioned before. I thought about bringing that on screen, but I'm not going to do it. We're just going to stay to Foundry. So let's get started, right? Let's get into it. Oh, as I mentioned, this video is going to be a little bit weedier, I guess. Might take a little longer. Chapter markers are going to be down below. So, skip around as you need. And I'm going to try to title things as we talk about them here, right? So we're going to talk about the landing page elements right out of the gate. You saw this last week. Not really anything has changed here. I do need to make some changes. The title's going to change. Whispers of the Drowned, that'll change. I don't know what it's going to be yet. Haven't written it, but I have to get things prepped up. So the buttons. Let's start there. This landing page comes straight from Baileywiki's landing pages module, with the exception of me changing some art and adding some art to the page. So the text, all the text, Old Gods of Appalachia, the Tales from the Pythian presents, Whispers of the Drowned, that's all added. The background image there is my image created in Midjourney with their logo laid over the top of it. I think I added one of the trees, which is an asset in the Baileywiki modules. And then I added this tree, which is another Old Gods podcast logo. But the buttons, so the family button, let's look at that button for a minute. So the button comes preloaded as a Monk's Active Tile. So we'll call it everything below in the descriptions, we're going to refer to it as MATT, M-A-T-T. Right, so Monk's Active Tile triggers is a very robust and powerful module. I'm sure a lot of you are using it. So we're just going to look into the triggers. So it comes by default with a click, a hover in, and a hover out as to when this tile activates. And then I just add that I'm going to allow it to occur when the game is paused, so my players can move around in the landing page as we go forward. So let's look at the actions. The most important thing here, the hover in, the hover out, that's more aesthetic. It kind of lights up these little arrows. I have to be on the token layer for it to work, but if I were to hover across these tiles, these little arrows light up as indicators that, hey, click this button. That's what the hover in and hover out does. The click landing is the most important one. So it runs a macro that comes with Baileywiki's nuts and bolts. It's a modified macro for scene transition module, and we're just going to look at it real quick. Okay, so it runs the macro and then it passes arguments into the macro. So if I were to go and pull that macro up real quick, just so we can see it. Let's see, that's going to be in for making stuff work. And right here, full flex. All right. So this is very cool. So they're very well commented macros, and that's great. I'm not a coder. I'm going to be the first person to tell you that. I couldn't write this from scratch. It maybe to save my life, but I can read it because, one, it's very well commented, and two, a lot of it makes sense, you know, as far as understanding what we're doing here. So they tell you at the very beginning that this macro takes 3 arguments from Monk's active tile triggers and passes it in to the macro to tell what scene you're going to, what image to show during the transition, and then what text to lay over that scene transition to display during your duration. So you'll have a little bit of a fade in, you'll have the image with the text that will delay on the screen for a period of time, and then it will have a fade out, right? So that's exactly what we're doing here. Everything has to be enclosed in quotations. So this is saying the page that we're going to go to is the blank characters page. And when we close that quote, that's the end of that argument passed into that macro. And then the piece of art that we're going to use, this is just the path to it. So it's I have it named OGoA overlay cover 2 in my folders. And then the text is going to be some text I grabbed out of either the book or maybe from a transcription from the podcast. Okay. And it's just going to run it as the triggering player. And so all that means is that only the person that clicks the button sees this. So if I've got 4 people in the game and one person clicks on the tile, one person sees the transition on their screen and gets sent to the character screen and sees the image and gets to read the text. That's it. And it's that simple. If you need to tweak anything in here, such as the delay, so everything's in milliseconds. So right here you can see it's going to fade in, and we'll run it in a minute, but it's going to fade in the scene for 400 milliseconds. It's going to delay it for 5,000, and then it's going to fade it out for 400, right? And that's all that it's doing. So the family and the land are basically the exact same thing, just with different args being passed through the macro. So let's see what that looks like. And all I did to this was change the image, change the text, and of course change where it was going, right? From here, the scene, if you will. So let's go back to the token layer and let's go ahead and click the family. So we get the image, you see the text, and it times out the delay, and then boom, we fade back over into here. So in here, we're actually going to do our first bit of work. I'm going to let you guys kind of do it with me. So we're going to be swapping out Adohi and Theo. These players are playing different characters. So this is pretty easy to do. So we're going to come into the tile controls and jump over here so I can grab them. So here is Adohi. So we're just going to change the tile image from Adohi to Patrick Mahoney. Mahoney, I should say. This is going to be the new image for the tile, and we'll apply that. There we go. We get the switch, update the tile. We're all good. And then we can just switch over to our text layer. And I should have probably copied that to make my life easier so you guys don't have to see how crappy I type. So we'll go Patrick should be an apostrophe Mahoney. Hope I spelled that right. And it remains Jose. So that's fantastic. And then I have up here in my Discord, where I can copy and paste it, thank goodness, is his new sentence structure for his character. I think you guys might remember that I had said that Cypher system was character development was a sentence. There's not any dice rolling as it relates to creating a character in Cypher, which is pretty, I don't know, in my opinion, it's a pretty cool thing. Let's see, here we go. Yes, so he's going to be a clumsy bum who gets rough and rowdy. The bum is a placeholder for speaker, right? So we'll just grab this one and we'll adjust the text. Control-Alt, Control-V, apply that and update it, and everything should be good to go. Done and dusted. So that's it. So the image is on a tile. We just adjust the tile image. The only thing I'll have to change here once I get complete is to make it open the correct character. So if I open it right now, I have the tile set under the triggers to on click open the actor sheet for Adohi. So what I will do, let's do it. I got to do it, right? Let's just do it. So we're going to come in here and we're going to create an actor, and I'm just going to call it Patrick for now, for short. It's going to be a PC, so it's going to go into the player characters folder, and it's going to pop it open. So for the, I don't think I've downloaded any of the images yet, so I'll have to do that later as well. See, I thought I was prepared. I don't think ever as a DM you're totally 100% prepared, but he has provided me with, let's check, maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Yeah, it will be the same one here. So let's select that. That's good. And then prototype token. Let's see, appearance, and then image path, and then do I have him? I don't have him. Let's see, Boone. No, I don't have the token in there, though he has provided it to me. So I'll just need to get that adjusted, which is not a super big deal. Though with the prototype tokens, I do use another plugin. See, I forgot to mention at the beginning, called Token Flip. This is by Ripper93. And what it allows me to do is it allows me to set up multiple images on the same token and then switch between them, right? Which is great. And I will demonstrate that in a later video for sure. But it's fantastic when you have a token on the board. You can right click on it. There's an additional button, and then you can flip between the tokens. Actually, I will show you how it works on another scene that we're going to get to here in a little bit. Let's knock out Theo real quick. So we're going to grab Theo. We'll just jump in here, go into Boone, and we will grab that Theater of the Mind image. Bingo. And then for this one, I am going to copy and paste because this is an actual Cherokee name and I don't want to slaughter it. It is pronounced Kaltka, per the character or the player that has made the character. These guys have done a lot of research for these characters, man. It's pretty incredible. And then she is a cursed healer, which is a sage that becomes the beast. So this, I think, will be a pretty exciting character as well. Hold on. Copy and control paste. There we go. And that should take care of that. And then it's done. And then really the final step to this when you're swapping out characters is you do need to come to your player characters, right click on the previous character, go to the ownership, and just change the ownership so that that part of the deal is done. So we'll do the same for Theo. We'll just change the ownership and make sure that that character can no longer control, or that player can no longer control that character any longer. And what I will likely do is I will come back into a compendium for characters, and I will drop those player characters into a compendium and just get them out of the game completely to make things easier. There is a final step when your players log in, where you will kind of right click down here and you'll get an option to configure the player, and you'll have to switch them to the new token so that Foundry knows to marry those things together. But that is the family button. That is changing it. Oh, I was going to tell you, you can absolutely, if you don't want to deal with the macro that we talked about on the button that took us to this page, excuse me, you can right click with the scene transition module installed. You can right click on any scene and create your own transition, right? And you can set it up to preview it. You can set the file path of the background image, its opacity, color, everything, durations, what the text says, you know, all that stuff. You can manually do it. We're just running it through a macro. So it's a little bit more control, and you can place it in a lot of different areas. Just checking my notes, guys. You know, good DM always has notes. All right. Moving along. Like I said, the land button is basically set up the same way as the family button was. The main menu is a little different. If I use main menu, we just go back to the main menu. Keep that simple, stupid. There's nothing really to say about going back to the main menu, in my opinion. If you think there should be, let me know. And then tell me what you should put on there. Or should it be the same? Should it be the same image with a different saying? I don't know. I just say go back to the main menu. So let's check out the land, shall we? So the land, another same image, different words, right? Different saying there. Get that off the page. All right. So then we get to this map. It's the regional map. This is new. Didn't have this form the last time because I didn't think we were going to carry on. So this map comes from the source book. It came with the Kickstarter. It's pretty neat. I like how it looks like it's been folded up and all that good stuff stuck in your pocket. Pretty cool. So up at the top, I added a family button. Again, this is going to take us guess where, right back to the families page. So again, remember, we're in the landing page area. So this is meant for the players to be able to look at different things without making everything super tiny or popping it open in journal entries or whatever. It's meant to let them jump around to different pages. So they can jump here, they can jump back to family, they can jump back to the main menu. These buttons all work the same. So then I decided that I wanted to put a little bit of a flair on my locations. So as you can see, the map comes with a lot of locations already denoted. My starting adventure took place in Hot Springs, North Carolina. I mentioned that before. Not a place on this map. So I put its approximate location marked with that little white dot. And then I made these map notes, and I did make these over in Pixlr. So I wanted to kind of keep it thematic with the game. So I used their logo and then, you know, some additional shaping tools inside of Pixlr, put them on layers, applied like a gradients color scheme, black to white, move it down to the point, exported it as WebP, brought it in here, put it on a tile. So they're powered by Monk's active tile triggers. So this is going to be a hover in and a click functionality under the triggers. So we're clicking and we're hovering in. All right. So when we go to our actions, what does that look like? So we have a landing for our hover in, and that's going to display some scrolling text. And it's just going to say Hot Springs, North Carolina, right? Cursor and over it, pop up text, Hot Springs, North Carolina for the triggering player. So they're the only ones that are going to see it. Duration is only about 2 seconds. It fades right back out, anchored in the center with the center direction. The click landing is going to show a dialogue, and this is a confirming dialogue. This is another type of tile. The action is show dialogue. If we look back at the scrolling text, the action is scrolling text, right? So on click, it's going to show the dialogue, and it's going to say, do you want to view Hot Springs, North Carolina? The answer is going to be yes or no, built onto the tile. If they say yes, it sends them to that landing. If they say no, it sends them to that landing. If they say yes, then it's going to run that macro, same exact macro. It's going to run it. It's going to send them to the Hot Springs map. It's going to do the same image, and then it's going to do different verbiage. If they say no, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to close out. So what does that look like? Well, let's look and see what it looks like. So we cursor over Hot Springs, North Carolina. We click view Hot Springs, North Carolina. Yes. Here we go. We transition in our scene. We have our phrase, and then here's the map that you saw from the previous video. That's it, right? And then here we can go back to Appalachia, which is the map previously, and the main menu. Set up the exact same way, right? And we're looking for consistency here so that everything kind of seems the same and feels the same. I have the verbiage set up, so if you go to Appalachia from the Families tab, or the Characters sheet rather, page, I should say, and you go to the Appalachian region map from Hot Springs, the verbiage is going to be the same. Just trying to keep like a, I don't know, maybe I'm just OCD, but that's how I rolled. So the Boone, which is going to be where the next game takes place, is in the town of Boone. It's set up the exact same way, right? So I cursor in, it's Boone, North Carolina. I click on it. Do I want to view Boone, North Carolina? Yes, I do. Gives me the same deal here, and then we'll be on the map, which also comes directly from the book of Boone, North Carolina. And yeah, and it's pretty cool. So, but you can see what you can really do with Monk's active tile triggers. And this still, like, in my opinion, this, like, I only am able to scratch the surface. There are guys out there that are doing amazing things with Monk's active tiles, and I encourage you, go check out Monk's Discord. They're over there, and they share what they do, and they do really cool things, and they aspire to do really cool things. So it's pretty awesome. So let's move on. So let's go to the town of Boone page or scene. So you'll remember previously in my last video, I had that, I called it like one scene. I told you guys that I watched a video by a creator called Axiom, and he had that kind of a setup going on, and I wanted to try it, and it was cool, and I loved it. But I think that because I had, the way I had that set up, where I had a tile as a main tile that had a bunch of images stored into it, and then I had a bajillion other little tiles off to the side that each had an image on it, plus an action, right, for monks, or several, where it might change not just the image on the main tile, but it might stop and start music. It might do weather effects. It might do all these sorts of things. The first load in of my players into that scene took a minute. Like, it took a minute, like maybe 5 minutes. It took a minute. And so then if I had to change to a battle map, that would go very quickly. But then coming back wouldn't take quite as long, because of course everything would be cached, but it would take just a minute. So I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to keep going, I really like this format because, one, I really enjoyed the theater of the mind style of play, but two, it's less to do, right? We already have a lot to do as game masters, so it was less to do. So I decided to rethink it, and let's go over here and check it out. And I'm going to delete some of this stuff and kind of walk through how I did it. So let's do this. Let's get rid of this tile, and let's get rid of this tile, and let's just start from scratch. So the first thing that I did was I created an image in Midjourney for a background, and I made it a very specific size, because I knew I wanted to fit a decent size map with a decent size grid inside of it, right? So let's turn the grid on and check it out. Let's look at this. So let's configure this guy. Let's go to the grid. So it's 3840 by 2160, right? So that's pretty substantial in size, and I'm using 100 pixel grid size. So if I turn this to a square grid and we can kind of see it, I mean, that's pretty reasonable, right? I mean, that's pretty big. So the idea here is that this box frame, which is just made with the text, this box frame is going to contain the town map and battle maps. And then this box frame is going to contain my theater of the mind images, right? And then all this is down here is text, where I took the key to the map that you saw a minute ago that had all the numbers on it. This is the key to that map. And I thought, you know, there's no point in keeping these things secret. They could buy a map anywhere in town. It's going to be 19 teens, right? So you can get a map of the town, and it's going to have prominent locations labeled. So why do we need to be secretive about this and make them find things harder than they need to be? So how do we go about doing a setup? Again, this is pretty straightforward. So we're just going to take and, whoop, don't want to do that. we're just going to take and we're going to draw in a tile, right? And we will just apply that and create that tile and bring it in here. I told you about my duplication problem. All right, so this tile 1, well, tile 1's technically the background. We're going to call this guy tile 2, right? And it is going to be at 2124. So we're going to go 2124 here by 1400. Right, and then for our X and our Y, our X is going to be 1099 and our Y is going to be 699, and that's going to put us right inside frame. Okay, and then we're going to open the tile up. We're going to go to the triggers tab, go to images, and we're going to go ahead and just add the image that we want. So we'll come back out here to our maps, right, and we'll grab the Boon WebP. We'll select that tile. We'll go ahead and apply that. That's awesome. On our setup, we don't need anything, right? We're not going to control anything here from this tile. So none of that matters to me. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to the basic tab and I'm going to tag this thing and I'm going to just call it town-battle. And what the tag is going to do, the tag is going to allow me to control this tile from another tile. So the idea, again, just like we saw previously in the one map, is that I have a tile that's got multiple images built into it that I can cycle through with buttons. Okay, done. Let's just lock that in place so it stays put. So let's do one more of these guys. I should have just left that second duplicate on here. Create that tile. Delete it. Pull this one over here. So tile 2. We're going to say that this guy needs to be, it's going to be 1262 by 1266. This should be very consistent. Like I said before, I make a lot of my art over on Midjourney, so that size should be very consistent with upscaling out of Midjourney in the square, right? So I'm not adding any AR functionality on, or aspect ratio functionality into back into Midjourney for generating the image, right? So like with the top one, yes, that was 16 by 9. The background, yes, that was 16 by 9. But this, I'm just going to let default to square, and it's going to give me what I need. So once it's sized right, do our XY coordinates. So we got 3469, and then we've got 1387. Again, that should put us on frame. Perfect. We double click in here. We're going to put a couple of test images. I have not generated any imagery yet for this particular story because I just don't know yet. So triggers, we'll go ahead. We don't need the on enter images. Let's just add, let's bump up one. Let's go to art and theater of the mind. And let's just add, I don't know, Adohe's camp. And let's add Cletus's house, right? There we go. We'll select the file and we'll just apply that. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to turn the grid off so that we kind of see this how I envision it being in my head. So grid this. Okay. We'll lock that tile so it doesn't move. All right, great. So now how do we control all that, right? What's the deal there? How do we do it? So it's going to be done with this button up here. So I made the image that's on this tile over in Pixlr. Again, I keep going back to Pixlr. I'm telling you, if you want to mess around with freaking art, that's the place to do it. It's pretty cool. But let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this tile. So this is probably the more complicated tile that you'll see today. Triggers. So it's on click, when paused, for me only. And then we'll go to the actions because that's where the money is. So don't let this overwhelm you. All right. So what we're doing here is we're going to show a dialog when I click on it. So it's outside of a landing. So we're just, when I click, because that's how our setup is, on click for me, it's going to show a dialog. And this is a custom dialog. So we're telling it to build us a dialog. We're going to tell the size. We're going to pass the size into it. And the size is going to be in pixels, right? So if you want a gauge of that, turn your grid on, look at your grid size. So if your grid is default like mine is at 100, that's 100 pixels in width and 100 pixels in height. So I can use that as a gauge to kind of decide how big I want that form to be, where I'm going to see my buttons. And then I'll just do a dummy add here. So if it's a show dialog, the type is going to be custom. The one we looked at previously was a confirm. So it's a custom. The ID I give it is scene selector, and it's just called select scene. That's the title for me only. It just says when I click on it, select the scene. I told it to be 600 pixels by 350. And then I added all these buttons. So all the buttons do is say, give it a name, and that's what's going to be displayed on the form, and give it a landing. And that's what's over here. Okay. So all I did was make those match, and I went down this list. The rail depot is 1. Here's the rail depot, right? That's it. All the way down. There's like 21 entries. Okay. And then once that is done, I have to come in and I have to create each of these landings. It doesn't do it itself. I told it what I was going to name them. So I came in and I did each landing, the rail depot, the auto repair, so on and so forth. And then as a test, I went ahead and added the next function. So when it goes to the rail depot, it's going to switch the tile image to tile 1 on a fade transition with 5 seconds. If I choose auto repair, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to go to tile 2. So the key here is what? That I got to put them in order. So I just have to make sure that I enter them in order, with the exception of the one that I missed when I was doing this, which was Dawes Hide Chop. That's going to be at the end. Or maybe I put it in order here. Anyway, I just got to pay attention. I have to make sure it's in order. And then that's it. We apply and we update the tile. And then if we go to the token layer and I click the scene select, here's my dialog. So we're at number 1 right now, which is the rail depot. So if I click the Boone auto repair, oh, nothing happens. That's always embarrassing when we're live. So let's look and find out why, right? So Cletus's house, we're starting on image 1. That should be image 2. Let's check our actions. Let's see. Or did I? No, that should be right. To select entity. Oh, what didn't I do, guys? What didn't I do? I didn't tag the tile. That's probably the most important thing to make this work. So let's do that. Basic. We need this to be called scene-tile and apply it. And now go back to the token layer and we click on it. Here we go. Boone auto repair. 1 click. There we get the transition. Awesome, right? Click it again. Here are our options. Go back to the rail depot. Boom. Here we go. Excuse me. Totally good to go. So this was my solution for kind of downsizing that previous scene where I had one main image. I had the town as a tile that was hidden, that was kind of a floater I'd pull and drag and put on the screen if I needed to. And then you saw all the buttons that I had on the side with all those images and everything built into the back end of it. All the tokens on the screen, all that stuff. It just made it pretty heavy. So this is my hopeful solution, right? That this works. So, we can even drag, let's drag the tokens out here. So we got Al and we got Cletus who are staying, right? I want to see how they look on here. So let's go back and revisit token flip by Ripper. If I right click on this token, I have this button right here. If I click and hold it, I can pick Alfie Rowe. Look, it blows his token up. It changes it to a Theater of the Mind style token for me. Then do the same here with Cletus. Grab Cletus McNeil, blow him up. And then I've got him here on this Theater of the Mind. I'll have the other 2. This will demonstrate the scene that we're viewing, right? And again, this is a very role-playing oriented system, so it'll be cool. And then I'll have a similar button over on this side where when I determine what battle maps I need, I will put inside of this tile and be able to click on the button over here and say, you know, battle map 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever their names happen to be. Click on them and it will switch as well. I don't know if I can turn on the grid through a tile or not, but I'm certainly going to explore that option. If not, it's no big deal to just flip the grid on when I need it. And yeah, that's kind of the new layout. It works really good. It didn't take me a whole heck of a lot of time once I determined that I was going to do it, and I feel like it works well. I don't know if you guys can see my cat back here, but she's going crazy, hitting the hitting the stick on the blinds. But anyway, so again, I apologize for the length of this video. I just wanted to kind of get into, you know, certain aspects a little bit more. I know we talked about the ending of the Cypher game last time, but this is about the beginning of the next one, and I have a little bit of time while I'm reading and trying to determine what I want to do, and so I just wanted to kind of put some ideas into action and get my back end prepared, so it was one less thing I have to worry about when I get to that point. Again, the chapter markers will be below, so you guys can skip around and check out anything that you want to check out. You know, do you guys think this is a decent setup? I mean, what do you think? Is it overkill? Is it too much? Is it not enough? I don't know. You know, give me some feedback. Again, I would also be curious, has anybody ever played Cypher System? Has anybody ever played Cypher System in Foundry, and what are your thoughts on that? My players have also expressed interest in doing a like an actual play of this game. I'm not opposed to it, but you know, if you guys are interested in that, maybe give a shout down there. You know, be Old Gods of Appalachia and Cypher System, and you know, we stream it here on YouTube and we played it. It'll be probably, when we get going, it'll be like once a month. And then I think it's fair to say the next couple of videos we'll be going back to the Shadow Dark RPG to get prepped for that game. That game's coming up here in a couple weeks. And we can talk about what happened in the last game, because I know you guys, you know, you saw me preparing for it. Didn't go anywhere near anything I prepared, so the bandit camp is still unseen by the players. They found the stuff I prepped prior to that. Players, man, come on. Yeah. And then I guess if you found this video useful, if you like it, if you want to see more of it, like it. Give me a like. Definitely tell me anything that you're thinking down below. Shoot me a comment. I don't care if you tell me it sucks, whatever. And then, of course, if you do like it and you don't think it sucks, then you should subscribe. I'm Greg. This is Tales from the Pythian, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.